Good evening. It's time once again for the Sunday night talk, looking at the week to come and looking back at the week that's been. And once again, you're probably getting tired of me saying this, but I'm not at all. The work on the discussion board was really good again this week. You guys are mastering it. You guys are doing what is really gratifying by engaging in kind of a deep and meaningful discussion. I really mean it when I say that this is where a good chunk of the learning in this course takes place. And what really is important to me is to see people learning from each other. I also, once again, want to tell you how much I appreciate the interactions I've been able to have with all of you, either through the class, through these little seemingly impersonal chats. But I've heard so many of you and exchanged email with so many of you. I've even had a couple people come and visit who were in the area. It's really great because this level of interaction, I think, is really important to having a good course and having a good quality experience. And it's something I hope we're all getting a lot out of. Okay, let me do my usual try to progress from one week to the next. Last week, and as I see through the discussion board, people had an awful lot to say about the concept of measurements and metrics. And measurements and metrics are so important. As you see when you look back to the Baldrige principles when we finally introduced them a few weeks ago, you talk about management by fact and making fact-based decisions. Well, where do we get our facts? Where do we get our data? Well, we get it from measurements, right? Making decisions based on opinion just really isn't a high-quality thing to do. Yet many of us do that, and I hope to add a couple of items before the course is over that have been developed actually through the on-campus version of this class that might illustrate some of that a little further. But a lot of times what happens is we tend to wait till a problem comes up, and then we fix it. We literally sometimes, but figuratively more often, find something that's broken and we apply the duct tape, and then we figure out a way to make that fix permanent. We never go back and try to figure out what really was the problem and why did we have a breakage in the first place. Well, that's what measurement and data is all about, is figuring out how well we're doing, what's going on, can we use that data to predict activity that will happen in the future. And I think you've seen through your discussions how a lot of organizations use measurements, use data, use facts to make decisions. And there couldn't really be a more important section of the course. Then having said that, I'm going to go right ahead and say, well, guess what? Here comes week 6, which may be an even more important section of the course. So take that as you will. But this week, we're going to go and look at 2 extremely important things, okay? First, I want to take the second one, which will be learning organizations and the concept of being a learning organization and the whole ideas of organizational learning. Do organizations as entities learn? Do they become what Peter Senge called the learning organization? And then individual learning. How do we as individuals learn? I think we're going to provide you this week with some very interesting perspectives on education. Education at all levels, okay? Personal learning. What does it mean? How do we learn? How do we do things? Why is this important to us? How does this help us in our organizations? How does this help us along with the ideas of quality? Learning really never stops. And it's become a cliche, never stops. But how do we do it? That's something I really want us to think about this week. The first part of this week centers on something we really introduced a week ago when I started asking about internal and external customers. Well, this one of the Baldrige principles talks about an organization that values its employees. And that's a principle, right? That we value our employees. Well, why do we value them? Are they really assets? Do we treat our employees as though they're valued? Do we help them understand their value to the organization so that they feel like valued and contributing members of the organization? This is really critical to quality and quality of the entire work process. Valuing employees can take many shapes and forms, right? from little tangible things of employee appreciation to really some things that are almost unspoken. Yet you know when somebody values your input. You know when somebody values what you do. You know when you're appreciated. You know also when you're just a number. You know when you're an expense. Okay? One thing I heard a long time ago is, and I really subscribe to this, is that someone once said to ask this question: what are the four most important words that can be spoken in any organization? Now think about that for a minute. Four words that mean more than anything else. And I thought about it for a minute, and like many, I couldn't come up with the answer. And when I saw what the answer was, I've immediately adopted it and tried to make it my own. Okay? And those four words are, what do you think? All right? What do you think? Because we all have something to offer. We're not all the expert. We are not, just by virtue of our positions or our power or our pay grade, the expert, right? What do you think? You know, if an organization uses that question a lot and really means it, what kind of organization is it going to be? Is it going to be one where you want to work? Is it going to be one where you want to contribute? Is it going to be one where you will be a productive contributing member? I think it will, but we really have to ask ourselves, how often do we see that phrase used, and used with sincerity? Okay? So you're really going to have two discussion boards this week. One on the concept of being a valued employee, the other one on learning organizations. Two extremely important concepts, and there's a bunch of material in this week, both visual and reading, that I think you need to do that'll help you get through it and to understand it. As you can see, the course is built stage by stage by stage. We didn't introduce this concept of valuing the employees till we had talked about internal and external customer, okay? We didn't introduce learning organizations until we saw a little bit about organizations themselves. So as we said, the course is building on itself until it reaches what I think you'll see as a logical conclusion. So this week, two discussion boards, no writing assignment. I hope everybody got their feedback on the writing assignment and on the discussion board. I'm continuing to do that. I got a bit of a break last week where there was a snow day, and that enabled me to just plow right through, no pun intended here, and get everything graded in a real timely fashion. So I'm going to try to do that again this week. I don't know if the weather's going to help me out like it did before. The other thing to remember, too, when you see your grades and you see the commentary, remember, as I've mentioned to many people, I'm tending to just ratchet it up just a little bit each week. You know, it's going to be just a little bit more rigorous. The expectation is a little higher each week. And what we're trying to do is not only do well in this course and express ourselves well and understand and demonstrate a mastery of the concept. Remember, this is a 200 level course. We're trying to set you up, we're trying to set ourselves up for greater success in the upper division courses to come. And that is a major focus of this course. So it's to be able to understand quality systems and quality attitudes and quality thought processes and quality work habits, and then apply them to our future work. I think that's where we're going. I'm seeing a lot of that, and I'm really appreciative of it. Okay, as usual, if there's any questions, please ask me, and I'm looking forward to what we get out of this week. Thanks again.